Well, hello, everybody. Glad you're with us here today, Tuesday, Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. I'm John Longshore. He is Barry McKnight. Tuesday of a game week. Well, for most people, to check the schedule, Barry, I see, Auburn's got an off week.
Yep, Auburn got an off week. Troy doesn't play until a week from today at South Alabama. So all I've got this week, we had the Troy Coaches Show last night, and I've got television on ESPN Plus on Thursday night for Troy women's soccer. Big one against Texas State coming up. Big one.
Awesome. Man, Texas State again?
Yeah, Texas State again. This is they're going to replace Lamo as John Cena. Barry, you going there again? How many times do you play those guys? It's like the Braves and the Expos. What's going on here?
You are right about that. Well, it wasn't a good night for my Saints last night. I did enjoy the Manning cast when they had their father on. Archie came on in the fourth quarter. That's the only way that got me through it. As we stumbled and bumbled around and let the Chiefs just go ahead and break the game wide open. And black helmets, don't wear them again. Don't wear the black helmets.
I got nothing but love for Peyton and nothing but love for Eli. And Archie's been a guest on this with John and I before. He and I have interviewed him before. Nothing but love for the Mannings. But, man, I can't get into the Manning cast. I can't, for probably the same reason why I would have quite frankly, and I love him, I would have a really hard time watching a football game with John.
Probably
There's too much other stuff going on, you know?
Yeah, so, no doubt. You know, I will say this. Peyton is so into it. I mean, it's X's and O's. He's talking football lingo. Eli's kind of, laid back. He's kind of taking digs at Peyton. Kind of, being a little brother to him. And Eli's actually talking more this year, which is nice. Peyton kind of hogged the mic time, I thought, over the years.
Yeah.
I did love, they showed some old clips of their dad as a Saint. And boy, those 11 years in New Orleans were tough. I did not know this, Barry. Archie Manning played for 7 different head coaches in his 11-year career at New Orleans.
I can name about 3 of them. Yeah, you watch those I don't know. You know how you've heard of the phrase dog years?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody said, dog years is like 7 human years. He played, 7? He played Saint years, I mean, 11 years with the Saints is like 22 with everybody else because of the toll he took. But I didn't love the helmets. I don't know what all the frou-frou stuff in the middle. Dee, my wife, who is a huge Saints fan, she says there's a bunch of little tiny fleur-de-lis up and down there, going across. And I used to hate, as a broadcaster, gold numbers on white jerseys. The Steelers used to do that once in a while, but they redeemed themselves by at least having a black outline around the gold numbers so you could actually tell.
I thought it was interesting, and they went with the newfangled helmet. And there again, I'm not opposed to some changes and alterations of helmets. I've talked a lot about that over the years. I just don't like that helmet with the vintage. I mean, those were the original uniforms that the Saints came out with in '67, with the big stripes on the sleeves and the way the numbers were on the jersey. That combined with the newfangled helmet was a little much, I thought.
I would have, now that you bring it up, it would have looked sweeter with the gold helmet, with the gold. That would have been better. I wasn't against the helmet though, although I'm not a change guy in terms of college football. John is let's blow up everything and do it the way I want it and stop all these little intermediate steps towards a 9-game playoff and a 9-game conference schedule and a 16-team play. Just do it. Y'all knows it. Y'all know it's coming. Let's just stop all the crap and just do what I want. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, I beat the drum long and hard about this playoff when people looked at me square in the face and said, playoff? No, we're not talking about a playoff. We love the bowl system. And we see where we are here today. Hey, good morning to everybody in the chat room. We really appreciate it. As always, you can get in on our River Region Straw chat line. It's very easy to do. We love the comments. We'll certainly feature several throughout the program today. We really appreciate that. Barry, you mentioned changes, and that kind of is a good segue for something I wanted to get into today. We really didn't get into it deep enough yesterday, I didn't think. And after talking about it, thinking more about it, and hearing Kalen DeBoer's Monday press conference in Tuscaloosa, I thought a lot about it as well. So many people have been focused on Alabama losing the game, which certainly is the most important. The defense has not played well the last 6 quarters. You know, what's going on? They can't stop anybody. But then the little episode with Malachi Moore came to the forefront as well. We did touch on it a little bit yesterday, and I got to go ahead and tell you his antics, his attitude, his childish behavior is unacceptable. Former players have certainly come out and expressed their opinions on it. They're not happy. Damian Harris, a former running back at Alabama, has been extremely unhappy about it and talked about if that had happened when he was on the team, when Saban was coaching, not only would he have gotten into Malachi Moore's face, so would several of these other teammates and other coaches. They would have ripped that captain logo off of his jersey
before he left the field. Yeah,
I get the emotions. A lot of people have gotten on Kalen DeBoer because he was like a deer in the headlights in the post-game press conference, didn't really seem to know what was going on. And his explanation was extremely weak. Bill Curry-esque like, if you will. Maybe even Dennis Franchione. I'm thinking, wow. Yesterday, he addressed it again.
DeBoer,
And basically, he just talked about the kind of person that Malachi Moore is and what a big part of this team he is, and stuck together and didn't leave when we got here. And he's really been, kind of the glue that's helped keep a lot of this program together. That's all fine and well. And whatever you want to say. But the more I think about this, Barry, because my initial reaction was put him on the bench for a game.
Yeah.
He needs to sit on the bench. But I wonder, Barry, in this day and age in which we live in and the way college football is played today, are these coaches afraid to do that? Are they afraid they'll lose their team if they discipline or bench a captain, a fifth-year senior? Are they fearful that these guys might transfer, as one of the players at Alabama entered the portal yesterday about it, and a former player commented on that? I just wonder if we're getting so soft with transfers, with NILs, with everything that's going on in college football, that you just can't discipline a player maybe like you'd want to or you used to for fear of transfers and maybe losing your team.
Well, I don't know that that's the case in this instance, but I can see what you're talking about. I can see your point. I'm not going to say, well, that's the reason why he didn't discipline or anything. He's afraid of, I don't know if that's the case in this instance, but that's a thing. I don't know of any anecdotal evidence, but yeah, that seems like a legitimate concern. And I know, I think this way. Look, you're a good guy. I like to think, I try to be a good guy in everything, give money to my church and all that kind of stuff. But if I ran a red light and got a ticket, nobody's going to look back and say, hey, he's been to Sunday school every day for 13 years. I'm not going to give him this ticket, right? I don't have any doubt that Malachi Moore is a fine young man. I really don't. You've been around him. I have, seen him conduct himself. I've seen interviews and everything. But you still got to do something. You've still got to do something. What he did was unacceptable. I don't care if he wins the Nobel Peace Prize. You can't allow that. No. And maybe it is because of what you're talking about. It seems plausible anyway. Everybody looks upon him as a leader. He's done things the right way for years and years and years. Finally, he just absolutely loses his mind. I mean, he would have been one of the last people in the country I would have thought would have, screamed at his team when they're out on the field and then walk up there and kick the football after it had been made ready for play. But, I can't go to the officer when he pulls me over for running the red light and I say, hey, look, I pay my taxes on time every time. I pay my full amount. It don't matter,
No, and this is one aspect of college athletics I don't like. I mean, I don't have a problem with the transfer and the NIL. I think they've gotten a little out of hand. I think it's really more than they bargained for, and if they can ever reel it back in to some degree, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. But when it comes to teamwork, being a good teammate, discipline, not hurting your team, not embarrassing your program, that's over the line. And I think you got to do something about it. And Barry, I've seen enough of these in my day, and maybe I'm wrong here, but this statement that Malachi Moore released yesterday had sports information director written all over it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could just tell the way it was written. I'm thinking he didn't write this. He just released it, maybe addressed it in front of his teammates with it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've seen enough of them to know it looked a little bit too polished. Yeah. And it looked too much like an SID or somebody in that department did it. Which, is that sincere? I mean, you should be writing something from your heart and something that you really feel and that you're, want to apologize and that you're ashamed about. There again, could be wrong, but I've seen enough of them in my day. I think I'm on the right path there. But I just don't like how this whole thing played out. I mean, from DeBoer's post-game press conference, didn't really know what was going on, and some of the comments that he made just didn't make any sense. He looked lost. To yesterday, I mean, okay, great. He's a great guy. I heard him at media days, but it still doesn't excuse his actions in a game they got thoroughly whipped. They got beat. The better, as Luke and Bill said, the better team won on Saturday, and to act like that is just childish.
Let's go to this. It's one of the reasons why I love our chat section, brought to you by River Region Straw. Way Offsides Jeff has a couple of good ones. He says, how do we know he hasn't been punished? Maybe he has. I would imagine something. He's not getting suspended for a game. Maybe on Saturday when they back in Tuscaloosa against South Carolina, maybe he misses a quarter. Maybe like Jeff Berger did one time, he misses a play, and then in comes Reggie Slack.
Yeah.
It may be the case. I think he's being punished at some point. Maybe some stadium steps at 5 a.m. Maybe he's already done that and has got to do it again tomorrow. I hope so. But I think it needs to be something a little more public than that, just simply because the transgression was very public. That's a good point. I'm not disagreeing with you, Jeff. I would imagine he is punished. He says just because he's not getting suspended doesn't mean he's off the hook for his behavior.
I wonder, though, in this day and age, if he was being punished, wouldn't we know about it? Wouldn't somebody have found out if he's running stadium steps or he's cleaning the bathrooms at 5 a.m?
Maybe not at Muskingum or at Slippery Rock, but Alabama.
Yeah,
I think we would have found out.
And Jeff, I'm with you there, but I don't think that's the case. To me, it looks like he, got this apology from the SID office. He read it. DeBoer talked about what a great young man he is, and I'm sure he is. And he stayed together and held this team together. He loves Alabama, didn't want to leave, wanted to, be successful with the Crimson Tide. That's great. That's all great and fine. It's just like Barry said, I go to church every Sunday, officer. You going to give me a ticket? Yep, you were speeding. You're getting the ticket.
Yep, and I would deserve it. So also, before we go to break, one more thought about the Alabama-Vandy game. Vanderbilt never trailed in the game. First time since 2019 that Alabama has not had a lead in a game, which also is a kind of a crazy stat. Here is an opportunity. It's knocking for you. There is a live auction going on at Vanderbilt University. I sent it to you on our Longshore and McKnight at Gmail inbox. There is an auction going on at Vanderbilt University to benefit the university and the football program. You can get a 4-inch piece of the goalpost for $1,005. While you can, I feel like John and I are like KTEL. Hey, Casey, while an 8-inch section of the goalpost, you can get an 8-inch section for $4,035. Well, you could, because they're both sold out now. The very goalposts that were in place when Vanderbilt beat Alabama. A game helmet, if you want to purchase a game helmet a Vanderbilt helmet that somebody wore during Vanderbilt's upset of Alabama.
About that.
$31,000.
Whoa.
31,000 game balls that were actually used in Vanderbilt's upset of Alabama for up to $4,600. Or if it was used a lot, if there's wear and tear on it, $6,900. And personalized game pylons are on the block for up to $1,500. Get him before Gurn finds out about it and buys it all out. Yep.
Yeah, he was at the game on Saturday as well. Not spoken to him since the big Vandy victory, but I know they're very excited about that.
If you Vanderbilt speak to him, people, just speak softly to him.
Yeah.
Hey, you okay?
Vanderbilt people are very smart, obviously high academic institution. Usually that it translates into a lot of income. They can afford some of these novelties from the big win. And that's a great way to raise some money for the Vanderbilt athletic department. Maybe they can get that construction moving a little bit faster on that stadium and have it ready by maybe this time next year. Who knows? We'll see.
Maybe Georgia State is using their win over Vanderbilt. You know, you can buy a piece of you can buy a Georgia State helmet for $500 or something to commemorate Georgia State's epic win over the Vanderbilt Commodores in the SEC in Atlanta.
Hey, morning to everybody out there. Thanks again for everybody on our chat line giving us a top of the morning. We really appreciate that. Love your comments as well. What do you think about how Kalen DeBoer handled this Malachi Moore situation? You hear that? What do you think about it? Should it be a little bit more of a harsher disciplinary action? I think so. But I think in this day and age, maybe coaches are a little afraid to rock the boat because they might have some people maybe want to hit the transfer portal like one of their linebackers did yesterday. We'll talk about that and a lot more. Bryan Matthews, auburnsports.com at the bottom of this hour. We'll check in with Bryan to find out what's going on, the latest news with the Auburn Tiger Athletic Department.
It's Longshore and McKnight. Somebody named Warren. It's not our Warren. He says, grumpy old men show. Who you calling old? The grumpy part, okay, but listen, us?
Hey, get off my lawn.
That's exactly right. Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Capitol Hill on the RTJ Golf Trail is set along the Alabama River in Prattville. 3 18-hole championship courses await any level of golfer. Fall is the perfect time to enjoy great weather and pristine course conditions. Bring your foursome and enjoy all the big games in the clubhouse while enjoying great food and beverages in the grill. Capitol Hill also has a fully stocked pro shop with all the latest equipment and apparel. The 2025 trail cards are on sale now. Get discounts on green fees and merchandise all year. Buy early and save. For more information, go to rtjgolf.com/Capitol Hill or call 382-9787.
Enjoy all the food, drink, fun, and winning at Victoryland. An elevated entertainment value, the best overall casino experience, and the highest jackpot payouts makes Victoryland the place to be. Go to Victoryland.com to find out more about their incredible giveaways, daily promotions, and free play opportunities. 777 Casino, simulcast thoroughbred, and greyhound racing are all within a short drive from anywhere in the Southeast. Victoryland, I-85, Exit 22, Shorter, Alabama. At Victoryland, you can be a winner too.
All guests of Longshore McKnight appear on the City of Montgomery guest hotline. Check out the most interesting and informed personalities in sports covering Auburn, Alabama, Troy, ASU, and all the major teams from across the country. John and Barry have the best guests brought to you by the City of Montgomery. To find out everything you need to know that is going on in the capital city, check out montgomeryal.gov. That's montgomeryal.gov, the capital of dreams.
Hey, Barry, let me tell everybody what's going on out at Victoryland. We've been letting you know it's the Trucks and Bucks giveaway, and it starts this Friday. So you need to be getting out to Victoryland as much as possible. The more times you're there, the more chances that you have to win. $25,000 in free play and cash will be given away along with a Ford F-150. Here's how it plays out. This Friday, October the 11th, beginning at 8 p.m., they're giving away $1,000, and they're going to bump it up every hour until midnight when $10,000 will be given away.
Whoa.
And then they'll do it again on Friday. They'll start at 8 p.m., giving away $1,000, bumping it up every hour until they get to midnight, Barry, and somebody is driving away in a Ford F-150 from Victoryland. It's the Trucks and Bucks giveaway, and it starts this Friday at 8 p.m., but make sure you get out there as much as possible throughout the week. The more you enter, the more chances you got to win at the Trucks and Bucks giveaway this weekend at Victoryland, where you can be a winner too.
It's Longshore and McKnight, not too far away from Bryan Matthews, auburnsports.com. Auburn does have the week off. Then they're at Missouri following a game against Kentucky. It's a tandem that John has said, watch out for.
Yeah.
That could be an integral part. We're going to talk more about it as it draws nigh. I didn't see that. I watched the game last night after my coach's show, and I thought the Saints had a chance when they threw that nice pass to the tight end over the linebacker. Derek Carr looked pretty good, and then they just
except for that interception he threw early in the game, I thought, here we go.
That one.
They picked it back up.
You know, my wife, again, huge Saints fan. I'm not so much, but I support her in all things. And, you know, so I'll watch the Saints with her and everything. And even I got kind of sick of watching Taylor Swift. Evidently, she was sitting in the box directly below Joe and Troy. And, you know, so everybody kept looking back and everything. Every time Travis Kelce made a catch, boom, up to the screen. I got kind of tired of it. I went to bed. So I didn't catch anything about Jaheim Otis.
Yeah, but quickly about the Taylor Swift. How come they show her all the time, but they only showed Trump once when he was at the Alabama-Georgia game? How come they showing some celebrity that, you know, big deal, so what, who cares? And a guy running for the highest office in the land, they show him one time. I thought that was interesting.
That's a question for the programmers there, because it is way overdone. So,
Barry, before we get to Jaheim Otis, I wanted to throw out a shout out here. This was a great gesture from our Dreamland Pick 3 winner. It was JR.
Love that
Dreamland Pick 3.
Yeah,
JR swept it with the NFL. He loves picking the NFL. And he swept the board and won the draw off. And I said, JR, congratulations. Send me your address. I'll get your Dreamland $50 gift card in the mail. He emailed me back and says, nope, please give that to a first responder. Give it to a police officer, a fireman, a paramedic, somebody in the medical field. I want somebody that really deserves it to enjoy some Dreamland barbecue. I went, wow, JR, what a great gesture. I already know the first responder that's going to get it and going to present it to them and let them know you, JR, the one or the reason that they're getting that. So that was a great gesture. The winner said, nope, give it to somebody that deserves it. And a first responder is going to get it, JR. Great stuff there. Also,
as the proud father of a law enforcement officer, that means a lot, because they are highly underappreciated. So I salute you. Thank you, JR.
Also, I'm not surprised that we've seen this, Barry, at all, as a matter of fact, and kind of glad we are. And a matter of fact, Bob from Pike Road brought it up in the chat line.
John, DeBoer must have been listening to you yesterday. Of course. He wore a nice golf shirt to the press conference yesterday.
So there have been a lot of articles written about DeBoer's appearance in Nashville with the T-shirt that seemed a little small. I think AL.com wrote a piece about it, got some reaction from people all across the state and the South. Most people didn't like it. Some were okay with it. It was the normal, I don't care what he wears as long as he's winning. But, you know, you do portray an image, a professional image. And I've used this analogy before, Barry. You got to look good walking up to the first tee.
That's right.
You know, whether you can play or not, I mean, you got to dress like you shoot 70. I mean, you might shoot 85, but at least let your your opponents think, wow, this guy can play.
Yep.
Like, get out on the course first before you can show them that you can't.
Like Andre Agassi once told us, image is everything,
Yeah.
or at least it's something.
That's right. So, I've said my piece about the T-shirt. I hope it never happens again. It might. I don't mind the hoodie so much that he wore. But, Coach, look, this isn't South Dakota State or Boise Community College or wherever it was you were before you got to Washington in a weak Pac-12 and got hot. This is the SEC. Things are done a little differently. So the emotion you showed on the sideline in the Georgia game, I think the fan base wants to see more of that. You need to chew a little ass out every now and then. You need to get in your players' grill. I mean, it took Bill Curry 3 seasons to figure it out. You need to do it quicker than Curry did.
I remember yesterday when John was talking, we were talking about Peyton Thorne and that fateful 4th down conversion try with the game online at midfield, and he didn't run what the coach called. And John took him to task for that. John actually on this program said the quarterback should always run what the coach tells him to. He actually said that with a straight face. Meanwhile, about 40 of his friends dropped their coffee, spilled it, their donut dropped in their lap. John did that. Now, this is something that he's always believed in. John's always been a sharp dresser. Thanks, George. John's always dressed well. It doesn't really matter to me that much. I mean, I don't want you showing up like Pat McAfee and, wearing a tank top or something like that. But, you do have a certain image to portray. I mean, you're the head football coach at Alabama. You're not changing somebody's tire from Pee Wee's Wrecker Service or something like that, There is something to be said for that. Again, that's probably, Gurn is probably yelling, grumpy old man at his TV screen right now. But, I mean, it has something to do with it. I do believe this firmly. Alabama wins that game by 3 touchdowns. Ain't a dadgum person talking about Kalen DeBoer's shirt. And everybody says, I still would have. It's not a great look and everything. Bama fans, they got on Bill Curry for looking too dressed down.
Yeah.
For looking
sweater.
Too natty, now they got to go on Kalen for wearing a T-shirt and a ball cap,
Yeah.
I'm pro ball cap on the
I don't
side.
mind the cap. Yeah, I like that.
I thought Saban should have worn a ball cap back when it was getting really thin. Go ahead.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I mean, DeBoer's got thin in hair. Believe me, I know all about that. So he just puts a hat on. Saban just went with the thicket and put a little hair color in there. But I thought he should have worn a hat.
Yeah, it wasn't me referencing the hair color, just so you know.
But I'm telling you, Barry, the T-shirt's got to go. It just got to go. Hey, Barry, my brother-in-law who lives over in Athens just texted me this. This is from Dog Nation. Our friend, Mike Griffith is with Dog Nation.
DAWG. Yeah.
That's right. This is a disturbing story. Georgia wide receiver Colby Young was arrested early this morning around 4:18, as a matter of fact, on misdemeanor charges of assaulting an unborn child and battery, according to Athens Clark County jail log. Young was booked at 4:18. His bond is set at $2,500. He's a transfer from Miami. I mean, you're talking about a disturbing story. I mean, I know we've heard a lot of stories about traffic violations in Athens, but man, this is, oh man.
Yeah. The only thing I know about him is he was the wide receiver in the end zone at the end that I kind of took him to task last week for not really fighting for the ball against all the Alabama freshman DB, number 2, who made the interception at the end. All credit to him. But I didn't think the Georgia wide receiver made much of an effort. He'd had a decent game, but a charge of battery and an assault on an unborn child.
Yeah, that is just, that is just gives me, I can't imagine thinking about. But Barry, that the play you're talking about, I use the phrase half-assing because that's how he ran down the field. It was like, well, the play's not coming to me, and he just kind of going three-quarter speed down the sideline, and Carson Beck was going to him from the get-go. Yeah, that was not a lot of effort there.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you say we take a quick break? I know Bryan Matthews is joining us when we return from auburnsports.com. We're going to talk about the Tigers with our man Bryan on our City of Montgomery guest hotline.
On Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Hey, this is Barry McKnight from Longshore and McKnight, telling you about our friends at River Region Straw. You're not buying sticks or stems and pine cones. You're buying premium long needle pine straw from River Region Straw. Kenny and his staff have access to the best pine straw in the River Region, full of color, that'll last all season long. They've got locations in Montgomery, Prattville, and Auburn, and no order is too big or too small. From a few bales to an 18-wheeler trailer load, River Region Straw also has seasoned firewood for the cold days and nights ahead. Pickup is available, and your order can be delivered if you like. They can even spread your pine straw if that's what you want to have happen, for sure. Call or text Kenny today, 669-5959. That's 669-5959 for all of your pine straw and firewood needs at River Region Straw.
Some days you hit snooze, but not today. Today you have to go on a run to get burgers for the tailgate. You've got to haul something heavy, a cooler stocked with Bud Light. When you've got beer and football, nothing is hard. Until the other team scores. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. 21 plus, copyright 2024, Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Fall into savings at Stivers Ford in Montgomery. At Stivers, they have the largest selection of Ford cars and trucks in Alabama, priced thousands less than other dealers. The F-150 has been America's best-selling truck for 47 years in a row, and they have hundreds to choose from. Save thousands on Ford Explorers, Expeditions, and Edge. Ford Broncos in every style and color, along with Mustangs, are available at incredible low interest rates. Stivers Ford in Montgomery, where Price sells cars and trucks.
Barry, I heard you talking about our friends at River Region Straw. I believe River Region Straw is heading to Phantom Enterprises today for a spread, and man, the place needs it. Looking forward to seeing how beautiful the outside of the building's going to look today after River Region Straw comes to see us. Give them a call, 669-5959, or you can text Kenny, and they'll hook you up as well.
Yep, he knows how to spread. He knows how to spread the pine straw. He knows a little bit about a spread too. If you want to ask him about some of that too, doesn't faze him at all. Bryan Matthews, auburnsports.com is in here with us. BMAT's Monday Musings at auburnsports.com. Little Judy Garland to start yesterday. Judy Garland and Over the Rainbow. Tell us a little bit what about that?
Yeah, 86 years ago, it was recorded for the first time. Judy was 16 years old. That song has now been covered over 5,000 times. It was named the Song of the Century, the 20th century. So pretty famous song. And one of the most interesting things is I think it's Nancy McPhee was her name. She was a runner-up on American Idol to the gentleman from Alabama.
McPhee. Yeah.
And she sang it, and it charted at the highest place ever on the Billboard 100. Her version of it, I think it made it up to number 12.
There is no truth to the rumor that the Cowardly Lion sang backup on that song that Judy Garland did.
It may have. May have.
You never know. Burt Law.
And he was courageous all along. He just didn't realize.
Yes, he was. If I was the king of the forest.
Oh, please let's not. We want to keep an audience here, John. Please. All right, recap it. Georgia 31-13. I may as well ask you this at the beginning. Auburn had a chance to really, get in the game more, stay in the game a little bit. If they had converted that fourth down at midfield on the opening play of the fourth quarter, what happened there, Bryan? What do you believe happened there?
Well, there was definitely some miscommunication, and I know there were some different reasons given in the post game from Hugh Freeze and Peyton Thorne. You seemed to think it was a running play. Peyton seemed to think that lined up in a certain formation, he had the ability to change that play. But and he obviously changed it, but I don't think everybody got that change. I don't. You're 4th and 1 at Sanford Stadium, so sometimes if you try to make a change there verbally, it's not going to work, right? That place can get pretty loud, even though Kirby was complaining about the atmosphere after the game. But for whatever reason, it failed miserably. But my thing is this: they're coming out of a timeout. If you freeze one to run the play, he should have been more specific about this is going to be a run only, and this is your only option, or these two are your options. Number two, he can speak to Peyton Manning up to 15 seconds before snap when some of this is going on. And number three, if he didn't like how it was going, he could have called timeout. So I think people giving Peyton Thorne a hard time are maybe missing the mark here.
We've seen this kind of thing, these post-game disagreements, more than once now, Bryan.
Yeah, we have. And I think the head coach has a hard time taking responsibility sometimes for things he should be responsible for. I'm not trying to pile on Coach Freeze. I just think he has a tendency to, in his head, think about execution. And, if I called the right play, if everybody executed right, it would have worked. But, if you take a step back from that, if you call a play is not executed right, that's because you didn't coach that play good enough. So there can be a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? A disconnect there. I think he's working on that, but it still creates some issues that don't need to be created.
Even though the turnovers vastly improved from the previous games, are things better? I'm reading some reports from some people that cover Auburn that say that things are better. The team's improving, that there's some hope there. Still lose the game, but
right.
What did you see that maybe would give us some signs of hope and improvement?
I think if you just look at them back on the last two games Auburn's played against the best two opponents they played, I think Auburn has made some progress. They should have beat Oklahoma. They blew it in the fourth quarter. I guess you could say they didn't get blown out of the stadium at Georgia, maybe 31-13. I guess that's kind of debatable. It's been worse, that's for sure. I thought they were competitive for portions of that game. You talk about the fourth quarter play. Auburn had scored to cut the lead to 14-10, right, and then Georgia back and scored, made it 21-10. So you felt like, yeah, maybe if they got that, they could score. I don't think they would have been able to pull off an upset just because of that fourth down play, but it certainly would have extended Auburn's opportunity to a little bit longer. But yeah, I do see some improvement. Not enough, but yeah, I do see them improvement.
I think Jarquez Hunter, there's been conversation on this program whether or not he's the best back in the SEC, which is hard to quantify, but right. He is. I think he is definitely good enough to be used more than he's been used. Bryan, your thoughts?
Just 13 carries, and actually writing on him this morning. I'll have a story up here shortly, but he is, I think, fourth in the country of powerful running backs as far as yards after contact per average. So he is getting it done when Auburn blocks well and when they don't block well. I think he had 91 yards. I think 82 of those yards against Georgia came after contact. So he was performing very, very well against Georgia. And I think 13 carries is not enough, right? You're on the road. You need to control the clock, try to run the ball. He had that nice long run for the touchdown to cut it to 14-10. Maybe he's the guy that could have taken over the fourth quarter if he was the one that was, placed in that position to do so. So we'll never know, but I think 13 carries is not enough, in my opinion.
Well, I've heard too many people say he's the best back in the SEC, and I can't find another one that's better right now through this part of the season, back to the midway point. Going into the off week, Bryan, couple of things. Do you think that they will maybe try to emphasize Jarquez more through the remainder of the season and try to get that put into the game plan in the off week? And why play Peyton Thorne the remainder of the season? Why not play somebody for, should I say, next year?
Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to feature Peyton more. They should, in my opinion. I just don't know. They seem to be pretty set on running the offense that they want to run, the one that they're going to run, and think will be very successful once they fit some more pieces in there. So we'll see. We'll see if they're able to make some changes. Maybe they will, and maybe they'll surprise us in Missouri on the what would it be, the 20th, something like that, 19th.
Yep.
19th.
Yeah. And then as
19th.
far as the second part of that question, what was that again?
About Peyton Thorne.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, yeah. About should you play another quarterback?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's what I think is going to happen as far as Auburn's concerned. They got a big commitment last week, which we hadn't talked about in Deuce Night. The number
Yes.
2 dual threat quarterback in the country. They're going to sign a top transfer quarterback or make a real effort to, which they haven't done in the past in the offseason. So I think what you're going to have is those two guys, along with whoever is still remaining in the quarterback room, competing for a job in the spring. I think Auburn's in position, and I would agree with the staff here, where they need wins over developing a guy or giving a guy, more opportunities just because he's younger. So as long as they feel like Peyton Thorne gives them the best chance to win, I think he's going to be the quarterback for now.
And some of the things that you're referencing right there in your response, Bryan, are things that, when I was reading BMAT's Monday Musings, which I never miss at auburnsports.com, for those fans who are wringing their hands and lamenting the state of the program, some of those things you were just talking about give you hope for the future, right?
Sure. And we don't know when this turnaround is going to come, right? Or we don't know for sure it's going to come, and we don't know if it's going to happen. But the reality is, if you look at other programs and you know how much Auburn has invested in its program and how well it's recruiting right now, by this time next year, Auburn could be competing for a playoff spot. Now, that may sound crazy looking at the current situation, but you can see Auburn play more and more of those young players from this number 8 national class. Right now, they have the number 4 class in the country. They're still recruiting some top players. They can move up into the top 3 potentially. And we'll see if they can hold on to that class while simultaneously not doing so well on the field, or maybe they'll improve on the field, and that won't be an issue. We'll see. But and maybe the turnaround happens in another 10 days or whatever it is in Missouri. So you just don't know when or if there's going to be a turnaround, and Auburn is back to competing, at a much higher level. So just because things look bad now doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be bad, 10 days from now, 3 weeks from now, or 12 months from now.
And you also cited some examples of that.
Yeah.
From other teams.
Michigan 3 or 4 years ago, I think they had a losing record in 2020. It was shortened season, like 2-4.
Yep.
The next 3 seasons, they made the college football playoffs. And of course, they won the national championship the third try there. You can go back and look at Washington and see something similar. The same thing with Notre Dame coming up the top season, I think going to the playoffs 2 years later. I think Washington, it was the next year, if I'm not mistaken. So you see this at other places. Auburn is in a situation where they are, putting together a very talented roster in the midst of it. If they can continue that, there's no reason Auburn can't do something similar too.
Bryan, to me, I would think coaches are more concerned about players they already have transferring out than maybe recruits and commitments bailing on them. I've never understood why a high school kid would go somewhere else because the team that he's going to, had a 6-5 season or whatever. I mean,
right.
It's all about, hey, man, I'm probably going to get to play next year, or at least early. This team needs me. So I've always wondered about the so-called concern about high school guys bailing on you compared to nowadays, these guys just transferring because, my lips poked out. I'm not playing. I'm out.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Auburn's very much selling to this class, right? The opportunity to come in and play right away.
Yeah.
Here are these guys from the last class. You see DeMarcus Riddick starting to play more and more, taking over that position from Eugene Asante, who's a fifth-year senior and a really good player, all SEC, I think, preseason. So, yes, that's part of it. But then you can look at Florida last year and see that they were in position to have a top 5 class. The season started falling apart, and then he became the guy on the hot seat. And that's what Auburn needs to avoid is people talking about Hugh Freeze not being able to retain his position, being on the hot seat, not making it through next year, whatever is said out there. That's what Auburn needs to avoid, like a plague, because that's when you got people bailing ship because they don't know who they're playing for. So that's why this season and these remaining games are so important. That's why Auburn needs to do everything they can in their power, like give Jarquez the ball more to secure some wins.
Would you say it's fair to say that in this off week, leading into Missouri and in almost 2 weeks from now, that there are some guys who really need to use this time to get healthy?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of guys banged up. Kendrick Falk is playing like an NFL player right now. I mean, he is the guy that's making plays every bit of the 5-star he was coming out of high school. But he's having to play a lot of snaps. He's playing inside and outside. He's getting banged up. Isaiah Miller, we saw him leave the game again with that hip. He definitely needs rest. There's some other guys with minor injuries. I don't think there's any major injuries other than the ones, like Tyler Scott, who's out for the year with a knee in the during the summer, and a couple others. But I think there's a chance for Auburn to be relatively healthy. They started playing more young guys. Jay Crawford has played a bunch of snaps at cornerback the last 2 games. Kinsley Louder-Falston, another DB, played a bunch of snaps against Georgia for the first time in his career. He's another true freshman. So you're seeing these guys play, and these 2 weeks, I think, are also an opportunity to get better and for some other guys to push for more playing time.
I thought Jay Crawford made a terrific play on that opening series to get Georgia out.
Should have been a 3-and-out.
Here we go, and everything, and then substitution infraction.
And those are the mistakes that Auburn keeps making, right? They should know from watching film that Georgia goes hurry up on 3rd and short a lot of times, and they weren't prepared for it like they should be. They got to stop, but then got called for 12 men on the field. I guess the guy didn't get off in time. I can't see the whole field, but that's just one of those little things where you talk about playing winning football or losing football, and right now Auburn's making those mistakes.
Brian, I'm interested in your thoughts about what's going on around the league. I mean, last Saturday was, wow. I mean, it was upset Saturday. We saw Alabama lose. We saw Auburn's next opponent, Missouri, get beat badly. We saw Tennessee lose. Georgia's lost a game. We know what's going on down in Gainesville. Texas seems to be the only team that's in a good spot right now. We'll see when Georgia comes to Austin, not this week, but next week. But just all over the league, and particularly Missouri, because that's Auburn's next game. I mean, they couldn't do anything against A&M on Saturday.
Right, top 10 team. They got blown. Their doors blown off in A&M. I think a couple of things. Number one, I think NIL and the transfer portal has helped spread out the talent more. I think a lot of people were concerned it was going to do the opposite, but they were wrong. It's definitely. From my observations over the last few years, it's definitely spread out talent. It's given more teams chances. Number two, I think the SEC is more competitive. It's got more teams in it now, the super conference deal. So I think fans are going to have to get used to their powerful teams, these teams who are super talented and national championship contending teams like Alabama, like Georgia, losing 2 or 3 games in a season, but still getting to the playoffs and still having a chance to win. So if I'm Alabama, if I'm Georgia a week ago, if I'm Missouri, maybe not quite as much because I don't think they're talented on the same level as other teams. But if I'm Tennessee, maybe. If I'm Texas and I get knocked off because they got some tough games coming up too.
Right.
The season is not over. It's not even close to over. You can lose 2 games in the regular season, possibly 3, still make the playoffs, still win a national championship.
Sometimes we get, all the time, we get a lot of questions. Hey, ask Brian this, or the next time you talk to Brian, ask him this. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we just ask our questions. This one, I have no idea where it comes from. Does Brian use Uncle Keith's red sauce on eggs? Is it good on eggs?
I don't, but I know a lot of people do, and my wife definitely does. She loves it, and she's like the other day, "Hey, we need to get some more Uncle Keith." So she definitely knows when it's getting low there. So yes, absolutely.
Uncle Keith's Red Sox brings you salsa. Bryan Matthews on the BMAT's Monday Musings. It's available all over the place. I know.
Publix, Renfro's, Piggly Wiggly, and State. Order online. BMAT 15% off your order.
And if you want a recommendation. Brian's wife, she says they're good on eggs. By gosh, it's good enough for me. There you go.
Love it. Brian. Hey, Brian, how do our viewers and how do our listeners find you? Check out everything you got going on at auburnsports.com.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Check us out, auburnsports.com. You can sign up for a free trial online. You can follow me on Twitter/X and Threads at BMATAU. We're gonna have football news, baseball fall practice getting going. A bunch of really talented newcomers there. Should be a fun season, I think. And of course, basketball practice fully underway there. We'll catch up with all those sports during the off week.
Our guy Plainsman Preston says he was at Firehouse Subs last night, and you can get some Uncle Keith there. You know, I don't know why we get down these rabbit holes somehow. Yeah, there's
nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Very nice.
Good
Appreciate you, Bryan. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan. Good stuff there. Yeah, and I've seen it, Barry, because they got a lot of different choices for hot sauce, and I have seen Uncle Keith's there at my local firehouse, which is right down the street. So, hey, Bryan Matthews, brought to you by our City of Montgomery guest hotline. You need to know what's going on in and around the capital city. It's easy. Just go to Montgomery AL during events. You won't miss out on anything. MontgomeryAL.gov. City of Montgomery bring you all of our guests. Hey, speaking of Auburn's next game, this was released yesterday by the SEC. Third Saturday in October's games. Right. Yeah. Auburn and Missouri will either be at 11 a.m. or 11:45, depending on what network.
Either one.
Either ESPN or SEC Network. South Carolina and Oklahoma is the other game that they're going to flip-flop with, depending on, I guess, what happens this week. But that game will be early as well. Alabama and Tennessee, well, you can thank these two teams for losing last week to get the 2:30 slot instead of the primetime slot. Bama at Tennessee at 2:30. Texas A&M at Mississippi State at 3:15. LSU and Arkansas is at 6 o'clock. Ball State and Vanderbilt also at 6 o'clock. And then the big one, Georgia at Texas at 6:30 on ABC. And then Kentucky at Florida at 6:45 on the SEC Network. So Bama at Tennessee at 2:30. Auburn's going to be in that early slot sometime at 11, either 11 a.m. or 11:45. And the big one, Georgia at Texas in prime time at 6:30.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that Alabama, Tennessee's not in prime time because of recent losses?
Yes.
Don't they know that doesn't matter? That it's Alabama.
I mentioned it last week, Barry. I'm looking ahead. You know, I'm always looking ahead. I like to plan for the future.
No kidding.
And I'm thinking about, okay, when's this game going to kick? And I'm thinking, well, if they hold serve, which they ought to go to Nashville and win. They ought to go to Fayetteville and win. Bama and Tennessee should be undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Alabama should win this week. They're 3-touchdown favorite over South Carolina. Tennessee certainly should be winning this week as well. Florida coming into Knoxville should be able to beat Florida. So I'm thinking, okay, 2 undefeated teams. Sure, they're going to put them in prime time. Clunker, 2:30.
Yeah.
So, if you had some plans, you got to rearrange them.
Well, how big of a clunker? Coming up in just a little bit, Travis Ryer will join us. He covers Alabama amongst his many duties. He's going to kind of put that one into perspective for
us. Did the Jags get a win this week?
They did. So, you know, they tried to give it away against the Colts, but they ended up doing it. Other quick sports news: the Chiefs are 5-0. They beat the Saints last night. The Major League Baseball division series are going on right now. Big one last night. My buddy Gunner was downcast because it was 0-0 Cleveland and Detroit hits a home run in the ninth inning against the all-world closer and everything to even that up 1-1. The NHL is underway starting today. Did you know, be honest, did you know that there's now an NHL team in Utah, Salt Lake?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Is it an expansion team or does somebody move?
The Arizona Coyotes, which I don't know that you actually realized was in existence either.
I did not know that.
It's called the Utah Hockey Club.
Utah Hockey Club.
Come on, people.
I still think their NBA team needs to change their. There's no Jazz in Salt Lake. I've been to Salt Lake City. There's no Jazz.
There's probably less Jazz than any state in the country out there. And did you also know that Bo Nix, former Auburn quarterback, by the way, Auburn quarterback Bo Nix is the first Broncos rookie quarterback ever to win 3 consecutive starts. No
I did not know
other
that.
Broncos rookie. I don't know how many Broncos rookie quarterbacks there have been that made 3 consecutive starts.
Yeah,
But the
really.
first one is Auburn graduate Bo Nix.
So
They had a
good trivia question.
big one.
Who was the Broncos quarterback before it was I can't think of his name. Elway.
Well, it was Steve DeBerg, right? Was it Steve DeBerg?
That was a good guess, Barry, because I think DeBerg played for about 8 different teams.
Yeah, he did. It's always good to either have
Yeah.
Steve DeBerg, Billy Joe Hobart, or the guy Ryan Fitzpatrick, who played for about 14 teams.
No kidding.
There. Well, when we come back,
Yep.
we're going to check in. Travis Ryer will join us to thoroughly break down the Alabama Crimson Tide. That comes up after this on Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Phoenix Physical Therapy is ready to help patients recover, recharge, and rise. They develop a customized therapy plan for each patient to get them back to enjoying their favorite activities. Their experienced team is committed to providing exceptional care in a professional environment. Whether you're looking to prevent or treat an injury, recover from a recent illness, or recuperate from surgery, schedule an appointment with our clinic and take advantage of our physical therapy, athletic training, workers' comp, and employer solutions service. Experience elevated physical therapy today. Call Phoenix Physical Therapy at 239-9316. That's 239-9316.
Hi, this is Benji with Marguerite's Exquisite Jewelry. Guys, this is the time to shop. The holidays will be here before you know it. Our cases are slam full, so take advantage and lay away for Christmas now. We have a full repair shop and design shop. So if you dream it, we can make it for her. And if you need any repairs, we have an in-house master jeweler. At Marguerite's, we make it. We really make it. At Marguerite's, we are open 7 days a week. Come see us at the Preparatory Shopping Center, 8163 Vaughn Road, Montgomery, Alabama, right by Chappie's.
Shopping for a budget-friendly, reliable used car, or maybe a stunning new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram? Well, in Prattville, it's always a process that starts with the team of professionals from Stivers CDJR. Thanks to years of experience helping others in the local community enjoy premium service, low prices, and access to a wealth of amazing new and used cars, it's safe to say that Stivers Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram is the name to beat in Prattville. But hey, just don't take my word for it. Experience the Stivers difference for yourself. Prices that will not be beat, a huge inventory, and knowledgeable, helpful sales associates. See why so many happy car and truck buyers shop at Stivers CDJR, where price sells cars and trucks on Cobbs Ford Road in Prattville. Okay, back at it here on this Tuesday, Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Glad you're with us here today. Tell all your friends. Love to have them be a part of what we do each and every day. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. It's very important. We appreciate that. You always get instant notifications. No, it doesn't cost anything to subscribe, but we'd love for you to be on top of it, and anything that we throw out there content-wise, you'll be able to know about it as soon as it drops. And, of course, that like button helps us out a ton. We appreciate that. But tell all your friends, spread the word about Longshore and McKnight. Now, all of a sudden, our conversation has generated conversation about other quarterbacks who have played for everybody like Steve DeBerg did. We're getting to be that way now with Andy Dalton. You know, there have been a lot of NFL quarterbacks who have made their bones, so to speak, with one team. Like Andy Dalton played for forever for the Cincinnati Bengals. They cast him off, and he's been with the Saints. He's been with the Cowboys. He's with the Panthers. He kind of bounces around every year. Another one is Joe Flacco. Flacco played for years for the Ravens, and since then he played for the Colts. He's played for the Browns. He's played for the Jets. So, yeah, there's been a lot of those out there. I think I'm right. Today is day 5. I mentioned earlier last week the Troy game last Thursday marks the first of 55 days in a row that there is going to be either a college game or an NFL game on TV.
Well, we've been through 5. The Chiefs Saints was, so I think we have 50 more. What about today? If you don't care to watch the Major League Baseball playoffs, or you don't care to watch day 2 of the NHL regular season, and this guy doesn't, you can watch FIU at Liberty tonight. 6 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. FIU, the Florida International Panthers versus the Liberty Flames. Panthers, Flames, they may be playing each other in the NFL, in the NHL tonight, but I know they're playing in college football. So, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Travis Ryer going to join us here momentarily. How about Danny from Margaritaville, Barry? He says he plans for the future as well. Says, John, I'm always looking, well, where to go? John, I'm always looking ahead. Who will be the next head coach at Auburn? Will PM write a novel about Vandy taking down the Tide? And will Bucky ever give me credit for finding this show? Well, he actually found a previous show. And then he found this show.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you, Danny.
For down in Foley to find us, Danny, I got to give you some credit there. I don't think I've read anything yet from PM about Alabama's loss to Vanderbilt, but I haven't checked today, so I'm not sure.
No, you got to give everybody kind of a pass on that, because I've seen the tweets and stuff. Oh, I see where Vanderbilt has torn down their goalposts and gotten a $1,000 fine and everything like that. Can you blame them?
The goalpost in the river.
They did, in the Cumberland River, which is, I mean, it ain't like, the Tennessee River outside Knoxville. You can't just walk out the end zone and throw it in there. Travis probably knows his way around Nashville. You probably had, because I've been to Vanderbilt. You got to take it down Broadway. You got to cut across over there near the Titan Stadium. That's a pretty big haul there. So,
Travis Ryer joins us on our City of Montgomery guest hotline. Hey, Travis, good morning. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Break it down. What in the world happened, and why did it happen that way for Alabama at Vanderbilt? Travis, are there any easy conclusions to draw?
12 of 18 on third down. You give that up defensively against anybody. That's a pretty good place to start. And then also essentially -3 in turnover margin, and with one of those going for a non-offensive touchdown. So those were the primary ingredients. If I were going to point to a couple of things, couldn't get off the field on third down. It was kind of a continuation of fourth down against Georgia. It turned into more explosive plays too. So the last 6 quarters or so haven't exactly been inspirational on the defensive side of the ball. And again, it's 2 turnovers on paper, but the 2 number 2s on the punt return, that was essentially a third turnover because you had Vandy stop. So
no doubt.
42 minutes time of possession, that doesn't hurt, but that's what happens when you're converting in that offense 12 third downs over the course of the game.
Yeah, Travis, that kind of blew my mind when I saw the time of possession was around 18 minutes of total possession time. And then you mix in the turnovers, as you mentioned. And that's what I look at. When I'm looking at a stat sheet, I don't really care how many yards a guy rushed for. I'm looking at turnovers and time of possession. And those two right there jumped off the page.
Yeah, situational football, really. I think red zone conversions you can look at, specifically touchdown conversions. And Vanderbilt had come into the game offensively right there with Alabama at the top of the SEC in terms of touchdown conversions in the red zone. In that offense, academy style, those type of elements, Navy, Army, those type of programs, they traditionally are good in the red zone because they can run the football in the red zone. And so Diego Pavia, self-professed huge fan of this guy. Yeah. I'm glad to see him get sort of the national recognition now because he is the epitome of a really, really good college football player. But also give Clark Lee credit because this was kind of a season at the crossroads for him, I think, at Vanderbilt. It was a disappointing season a year ago. You go get what I call the New Mexico State migration with Diego and Tim Beck and Jerry Kill And also Eli Stowers, the tight end hybrid receiver that was very, very difficult on Alabama Saturday. The biggest shame for Clark is that it's a one and done with Pavia. But man, if you can get back locked up, that can change the whole trajectory of his tenure up there in Nashville.
Yeah, I knew you were going to give credit to Vanderbilt because they deserved it much as anything else. And you're citing some of these numbers, 12 of 18 on third down, and obviously that was a big difference. But the Bama fans want to know why. Why were they 12 of 18 on first down? At whose feet do the responsibility of the Alabama defense not being get off the field fall upon?
Oh, it goes back to Kane Womack. I mean, this is where it goes in that position. And Kane knows that. I mean, it was what I call a my bad Monday in Tuscaloosa yesterday because everybody was my bad. Malachi Moore, my bad. Kane Womack, my bad. The players, Kalen DeBoer, my bad. And that's really where it goes back to. And so, look, you appreciate Kane in a lot of ways because it seems like he has conviction in terms of his scheme, swarm, but we haven't seen much swarming here of late. When I think swarm, okay, I think multiple guys to the football, right? When you think about a swarm approach, but we haven't really seen that. We didn't see it against Vanderbilt, and you better be able, and I understand Vanderbilt puts you in conflict with how they play offense. You try to run too many people the football, there goes the pitch. Or, it's the beauty of triple option sort of principles, but it just hasn't seemed to come together as of yet. And the biggest thing about Saturday too was that, okay, the back end against Georgia, that didn't really surprise you there, especially when Georgia was in desperation mode and throwing it 50 times or whatever it was. But you went into this season thinking, regardless of offensive schemes that you were going to run into, that front seven was going to be kind of your security blanket with that defensive line, with Deontay Lawson, Jahad Campbell. And, we can talk about the third downs, but I think it was early down success that Vanderbilt had too, because these weren't all 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 8s. They were able to stay on schedule for the most part and give themselves a lot of options, so to speak, when it got to third down too.
Yeah, just as creative as they got, the shovel passes. One of them went for a touchdown. The other one was a big gain. The 4th down play where they threw the touchdown. Very creative with that offense. And, Diego just is so talented, not only running the ball, but maybe when that run game breaks down, he can hit a receiver coming out of the backfield, which we saw a couple of times as well. One of those went for a touchdown. I just thought creatively, Travis, their offense was about as good as I've ever seen from a Vanderbilt team.
Diego probably looks more like a light heavyweight than he does a quarterback, which is sensible because if you don't take care of this guy in the early rounds, he will eventually knock you out. And that's kind of the way it went down in Nashville. As much as anything intangibly, he's not afraid of any. We learned that at Auburn last year with New Mexico State.
Yeah.
And Virginia Tech earlier this season should have reaffirmed that. Even the loss to Missouri a couple of weeks ago, that's a game you could very easily argue got away from Vanderbilt more so than Missouri winning that game. But the guy's very, very impressive. I like the intangibles as much as I do the physical part. And absolutely, he's that kind of guy, an old dude that you kind of have to chop the head off, to finish that deal. And Alabama never did that on Saturday.
Travis, I've got to ask you in a creative way how to address hoodie gate or T-shirt gate. I mean, you and John look like you bought your shirt from the same rack, side by side. Very nice, Peter Millar, nice stripe. I got my Nick Saban special on.
Comfort.
There you go.
That's exactly right. My submission is that if Alabama wins that game by 3 touchdowns, people wouldn't care that Kalen DeBoer wore a T-shirt on the sidelines.
Well, I mean, he looked like a manager at Pep Boys against Georgia, and nobody cared, right? Who cared?
Yep.
After he beat Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was at the 15-minute oil change, basically.
He was
directing me into the stall.
Yeah.
Nobody cared after that.
You're right.
Now, oh gosh, look at this guy,
Yeah.
Looks like a
Yeah.
Pizza Hut delivery guy or something out there.
I got to tell you, it kind of surprised me when I saw it. I went, whoa, wow, the T-shirt. I don't know, the hoodie, my boys wear them, so I'm used to it, the long sleeve and whatnot. I just, the T-shirt kind of surprised me. I went,
yeah, that was workout attire. That went even beyond. But you're right, though. I agree with you, Barry. Who cares? If you win games, nobody cares. You can do just about anything you want as long as you're winning games. As soon as you lose, everything goes straight into the middle of the table. I talked about this immediately after the game on Ryer on YouTube Saturday night. You lose that first game, and especially you lose that first game to Vanderbilt. Now everything's under the microscope. And look, some things should be, because it's not just a one-off against Vanderbilt, especially on the defensive side. And then also the late game actions of Malachi Moore, one of your veteran leaders. That didn't help you if you're Kalen DeBoer. That brought everything into play.
And it's so out of character for him. What should Kalen DeBoer's reaction be or have been?
I know publicly there were some folks that felt like he should have been more critical of Malachi maybe yesterday in that press conference. All I would care about if I'm an Alabama fan is how it actually got handled internally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until I don't have a reason to think that Kalen DeBoer internally can handle those situations the way they need to be handled, I'm going to trust that he can. So, for him to come out and really publicly support Malachi like he did, that doesn't surprise me either, because the sample size, as you kind of alluded to there, Barry, tells us that Malachi's been a good teammate. Malachi's been everything you want in a leader. I would say this, and I tweeted this at some point in the last couple of days or X'd it, whatever. There's a reason why I think some coaches like Nick Saban always wait until the end of the season to do the permanent captain thing. And this has been different. It's not unusual, because look at the NFL. I mean, we got the players with the C's on the jersey from the start of the season. That's a preseason thing. I think a lot of college teams do it that way as well, but it's maybe something to consider moving forward. But yeah, I've had a lot of Alabama fans chime in, tell me, got to suspend him, got to do things like that. Again, if there was this history kind of leading up to what we saw Saturday, I could probably get on board with that. But really what we've seen anyway is Malachi being everything you'd want as a guy on your football team.
Travis, I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, this would have been handled differently. Maybe there would have been a suspension, but I wonder about the day and age of NIL and transfers and keeping your team together and not splitting up factions of your team, that you almost have to handle it this way, or you could have some major problems within your team and you might have people leaving.
It's a fine line, man, because you got 100 set of eyes looking at you in that situation. If you're Kalen DeBoer this early in your tenure, this is something none of those guys have seen from you as of yet. It's all been peaches and cream. It's all been positivity. We thought the second half at Georgia was adversity. Maybe the second half, even against USF, maybe answered the bell a couple of times, but this is when it truly sets in. So when you add in the actions of Malachi to go along with just the loss as a 23-point favorite, in general, it ramps up the stakes for Kalen DeBoer. And it's important that you handle it in a way that it truly resonates moving forward. And that's the thing. We won't know. I mean, we won't really know if this was handled the way it needed to be handled or not, probably until we see Alabama in this situation again and how it handles that.
Along those same lines, to the points John's bringing up, we've seen Matthew Sluka at UNLV. We've seen Bear Alexander at USC, and people are talking about those issues where those guys leave in time to utilize their redshirt year and transfer somewhere else because of whatever reason. And we've always said, well, wait until it happens here on your doorstep. Well, at Alabama, it's happened on their doorstep with Jaheim Otis. Is there a level of surprise at all for you with that story coming out?
The only surprise for me is that Jaheim seemed to regress, because his true freshman season, he had sort of that feel of being a Deron Payne, maybe a Quinnen Williams. He seemed like he could be on that career path. Lost a ton of weight before his freshman season. He was like a 400-pound guy, remember? Very impressive, the commitment he had to getting where he needed to be a first-year contributor. But then he had an injury situation or two. And just from there, the regression seemed to come into play. And really the last time we saw Jaheim as a rotational guy was probably Wisconsin, as I recall anyway. And just in that limited opportunity, I didn't think he was especially good in that game. So it just felt like he was starting to get caught in the reshuffle as the season moves along, and guys start to emerge. James Smith has become a very integral part to that rotation to go along with Keenan and Tim Smith, Jamarian. I think there's more coming. I mean, I'm not saying in terms of departures, but as far as going to next guys, I think maybe even at the end positions, you could start seeing the Jordan Renauds and some of these younger guys, because Jamarian Latham wasn't very good against Vanderbilt, I didn't think, last week. So, there could be some shakeups that are still coming up with that defensive front. But for Otis, there's going to still be a market. I mean, that's a position of value, and he's still a talented guy. I think as much as anything, it's what does he want to do, and does he really want to do it? That's going to be the question.
Well, let's talk about a positive. And we've talked a little bit about, excuse me, in the preseason that Nick Sheridan, Kalen DeBoer like to utilize the tight end. Travis, I've been very pleased with what I've seen out of the tight end play and how they've incorporated it into this offense.
Yeah, I think defenses, after watching Jalen last year, just figured, look, this is going to be an outside the numbers guy. This is going to be a vertical guy, or this is going to be a take off and run guy. And what they've brought more into this offense is hitting defenses in the middle of the field with CJ Dupree, Josh Cuevas, these tight ends. You're right. That's been a very nice addition to the offense. It's been really cool to see Jalen become comfortable with it, like in command of it and not hesitant in any way. So offensively, yeah, there's still a lot to feel good about. I know a lot of the fans are still need to see more Haynes, need to see more Miller. But, when you get down 20-7, it was kind of, you were in the Georgia position from the previous Saturday as an offense, and you weren't showing signs of slowing down that Vanderbilt offense or getting enough opportunities to have the football to control the game in that way. So, the narrative of Alabama scores too quick, Alabama's too explosive. No, you can never score too much. You can never be too explosive in today's era of college football. When you're the better team and you had the better roster, get off the field on third down. Maybe try that.
Yeah.
That might help.
It sure would. Travis, obviously last Saturday was interesting in Nashville. It was interesting in Fayetteville. It was interesting at College Station. There were some upsets in this league. Your thoughts about where the SEC is today? Texas, we talked about their schedule. It's somewhat weak. They do have Georgia coming up, but it is in Austin and on the third Saturday in October. But just overall where we are, almost to the midway point about where the how the season's played out.
Yeah, chaotic after Seismic Saturday, as I like to call it, last week. It seemed like it was going to be a sleepy Saturday this past week, And then you have 3 top 10 teams go down on the road, in Missouri as a part of that too, to go along with Tennessee and Alabama. So right now it looks like Texas is that team. Georgia, October the 19th is going to be like the SEC's own college football playoff.
Oh,
it's going to be like, I mean, that's New Year's Day in mid-October in a lot of ways. College football playoff in mid-October. So Tennessee at Alabama, Georgia at Texas. Boy, that's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, it's been wild to this point. I think it's been everything the league probably wanted it to be in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that Alabama-Tennessee game on the 19th would mean a lot less if Alabama doesn't take care of things this Saturday at home. Seeing what you saw last week on the road in Nashville, what are you looking for this Saturday from this team against a South Carolina team that Alabama is going to be a double-digit favorite against?
Hard to figure out South Carolina after that dud, and give credit to Ole Miss because, there were a lot of folks out there picking South Carolina because the feel has always been with Ole Miss, after it takes a shot to the chin, like the one it took from Kentucky, it might roll up. But veteran quarterback in Jackson Dart, improved defense, pretty dominant performance on the road against a pretty average South Carolina team. But then you look at South Carolina on the road earlier, went into Lexington and just took apart a pretty good Kentucky team. So I think if you're South Carolina, hey, we got quarterbacks that we can move, we can run. Lenore Sellers, Robbie Ashford. That's where I think it's got to start for South Carolina to have a chance. The blueprint has to be similar: possess the football, play with that defensive front. South Carolina pretty good in that front four, especially at the edge positions. But it's a game Alabama should win, and probably win in pretty much commanding fashion. And we heard a lot of the things you want to hear from Alabama yesterday, but in terms of trusting this team, I think there's going to be some issues with that, especially on the defensive side, until we actually see it against an inferior opponent, which Vanderbilt was last Saturday.
Yeah, boy, no kidding. Let me go back real quick to what we were just talking about last Saturday and the upsets. With transfers and I guess more parity in this league, I think we're going to see more Saturdays like that in the future, not only this season, but in future seasons. In saying that, Travis, can an SEC team make the 12-team playoff with 3 losses?
We're probably about to find out, because with all these teams already with 1 loss, I mean, just look at Alabama for that. And you had Vanderbilt after beating Georgia as a back pocket win. I mean, clearly. Then you had South Carolina kind of in that regard this week. So you would think you were going with a win over Georgia to Tennessee undefeated, and then you really had some house money to kind of play with, right? Because down the stretch, those 3 road games, Tennessee, LSU, Oklahoma, then you're thinking, if we're undefeated going into Tennessee, we could probably even go 1-2 between those 3 road games, as long as we take care of business at home against Missouri and Auburn. Then you're in good shape. But now you kind of have to replace that Vanderbilt loss maybe with a win. So I think it could be very interesting if it gets down to 9-3 teams. Then you kind of get into that argument of who had the best losses or things like that. But yeah, I don't think it's certainly out of the realm of possibility at all.
Travis Ryer, so many different offerings that you've got, including Talking Tide. Tell our listeners how they can catch the content you provide.
Just check us out on X, Twitter, whatever you call it these days, at Travis Ryer, TravisReier. Also on YouTube, Ryer on YouTube. We have the Talking Tide show with Chase Goodbread, columnist for the Tuscaloosa News. We do Second Helping, which is our SEC show there on the channel. We even do some NFL. Hey, Jags won. See, Longshore doesn't bring it up when the Jags win.
My Saints got humiliated last night against the world champs. I'm just trying to get over that.
Father Flacco tried to light us up there in the 4th quarter. Guy looks like a priest.
Yeah.
And runs like one.
Yes, he does.
And
yes.
And he's just
Father Flacco.
torching us. And so, but look, we've got all that for you at Ryer on YouTube. Also, all of our shows are podcast format. So whether you're on Apple, whether you're iTunes, whether you're Spotify, you can access those shows that way as well.
There you go. On the road for sure. Yep. Travis, thanks much for the time.
Thanks, guys.
All right, buddy. Thank you, Travis Ryer, on our City of Montgomery guest hotline. You need to know what's going on in and around the city. It's easy. Go to montgomeryal.gov, calendar of events. You can see it all and check out all the entertainment and fun here in the capital of dreams. montgomeryal.gov.
Let's take a break. More to come in just a moment. Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
The Destin Connection Seafood Market offers the freshest seafood direct from the Gulf of Mexico with deliveries daily. Snapper, grouper, pompano, flounder, copia, along with medium, large, and jumbo shrimp, hand-picked crab meat, and chucked oysters. They can even cook your order for easy, quick pickup. The Destin Connection can make a po' boy with any of their seafood items that folks in New Orleans rave about. Go by and see them at 3750 Norman Bridge Road or call 288-4272 for pickup orders.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Jim Massey's Cleaners and Laundry is an Alabama-based, family-owned and operated business that specializes in dry cleaning and laundry, serving the river region since 1941. There are 12 convenient locations across the river region. Find one close to you or call 481-1911 for free pickup and delivery. For 83 years, Central Alabama has trusted Jim Massey's Cleaners and Laundry. You should too.
All right, we're back at it. Barry stretching, it looks like. No, he's getting his IFB put back in there on this.
Checking with my wife real quick.
Yeah. I'm going to have to raise the pay of our female voice talent that does our commercials here.
No kidding. No kidding.
Wow.
I've been impressed with them so far.
I don't know where Gurn Jr. found them, but wow, they fit it out of the park.
Definitely good. No question about it. And hey, big ups to getting some of the logos up, I mean, we're a growing enterprise. Make sure you tell your friends about us. Longshore in McKnight. A lot of them, it's presented by Bud Light. A lot of them may have remembered us in a previous engagement and all that. And kind of, hey, I got one yesterday, as a matter of fact, on Facebook from a guy. I'll go ahead and shout him out because he's probably watching. His name's Stephen Mosley.
Okay.
Stephen says, hey, I've been on deployment.
Oh, wow.
And I'm missing you guys. Where can I find you? And I told him, he said, that's great. Here I am after serving my country. Thank you very much for your service, Stephen, as always.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm back. Where's my Longshore in McKnight? Hey, just tell your friends about it and everything. Make sure they subscribe, hit the like button. We are getting bigger and better all the time, which is kind of the deal. And we always enjoy not only the absolute loyalty of a lot of the people, but a really good, really active chat line on the side there, brought to you by River Region Straw. And you kind of get the sense of people's daily rhythms now. Like, I could be wrong, but I believe Robbie from Greenville gets up about 8 o'clock in the morning.
I think so. I've noticed that as well.
Maybe
you can tell the
7:30,
time
hits the shower, brushes his teeth, and all that. Because Robbie has said this at 2 minutes after 8 o'clock. He said, everybody has had their chance to talk about the Vanderbilt loss.
Have they?
It's time for Alabama fans to focus, like the team, on South Carolina.
Now,
Robbie, it's been 2 full days since, again, I got to say this with the proper gravitas. Vanderbilt beat Alabama. Vanderbilt beat Alabama. This ain't Georgia beating Alabama or Texas or Oklahoma or Ohio State or any of the other 6 teams that John figures have a legitimate chance to. This is Vanderbilt beat Alabama, Robbie, and you expect on the Tuesday morning following? All right, that's enough of that. No.
How about this, Barry? Not only was it Vanderbilt, but the game, there were 25,000 people that actually saw it live in person. 25,000. Huh. That's 75,000 less that would have seen it if the game was played in Tuscaloosa. That's even more embarrassing. 25,000 people watched the game live in person.
Even more, I don't know about embarrassing necessarily, because I don't think the Vanderbilt fans were feeling any sense of embarrassment at all. But I do know this from Clark Lee, the Vanderbilt coach, who I think is a terrific coach. He said, hey, it was almost like Dr. King. I have a dream. I have a dream that someday we'll play a home game and 80% of the fans are not from the other team, that we'll fill up our home game with our own people. So the fact that there were 25,000 fans there is not embarrassing.
I think 18,000 of them were we're Bama fans.
That's exactly, at least,
yeah,
maybe more. So yeah, Robbie goes on again and again and again to say this, okay, time to move on, the week off for Vanderbilt certainly helped.
Oh, week off. Here we go.
Robbie.
Yeah.
We're talking Vanderbilt.
Now, Robbie.
Vanderbilt normally could have a week off.
Month off.
And the Alabama football team could have gone a week without eating.
Yes.
And Alabama would have beaten Vanderbilt.
That's right.
Alabama now must learn from the loss and move to South Carolina. The season, a lot of people think Kane Womack should move to South Carolina. The season is far from over, which was a great Frank Stallone song.
Yeah.
The season is far from over for Alabama fans. I'm glad Malachi Moore was
Whoa.
Robbie. Here's the deal on that. And out of many things that I've disagreed with you over the years, I don't know if I disagree with any. Of course, Malachi Moore was unhappy.
I mean, the way people are talking about
you, Justice, everybody was unhappy.
Yeah.
But John, it's how you handle it.
Yeah,
it's
how you handle
deal with the adversity and the disappointment and the discouragement. Of course, you're unhappy.
So, Robbie, you're kind of throwing this out there like it's been 2 days. The Braves got swept by the Padres. It's no reason to talk about that anymore. We talk about it for 6 straight months, and the Braves, choke, and we're not going to talk about them anymore. Well, I'm fine with that because I don't like talking about the Braves at any point in time.
I was about to say, you're talking
But Robbie, you can't give me this. It's been 2 days since the game. Move on. Well,
Robbie.
Bama fans been crowing all off season about they're not going to skip a beat, and they got a loaded roster, and they got the number 2 recruiting class in the barn right now, and everything's great, not going to miss anything. And we told you what was going to happen. As soon as they stub their toe, people are going to start coming out and jumping on the defensive coordinator. I mean, are they trying to bring the old one back that's in Oxford right now? Is that what I'm hearing? They want to bring him back? I mean, give me a break. And then they're talking about T-shirts and all this type stuff. Robbie, no, this loss is going to linger. It's going to linger for a long time. So just get ready for it. Not sweeping this one under the rug.
Yeah. Alabama can, again, Robbie, Alabama can get into the college football playoff with a 10-2 record. 2. You're already acknowledging another one? Alabama can get into the college football playoff with a 10-2 record. I still trust this coaching staff and team, despite the loss, must focus on South Carolina. Easier said than done. He also...
not only can you buy a piece of the goalpost, buy a helmet, a pylon, whatever, word on the street, Barry, is that Daniel Moore is doing a painting of Diego Pavio taking a knee against Bama as the clock runs out. How about that one?
Yeah. He said they need to focus more on what Kane Womack did wrong with his game plan using man coverage against Vandy's split zone option offense. Look, I can't stress this enough. We know, I can't remember, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know of another team in the country, Saban and afterwards, that plays man in the secondary more than Alabama does. It's one of the reasons why they get so many great DBs. They play a lot of man. In the NFL, they play a lot of man. That's why guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick and Marlon Humphrey, who had a big NIT yesterday to sink the Bengals when they had that game won. That's why a lot of those guys go to Alabama, because they know they're going to play a lot of man principles. I don't know anybody does that more. In other words, Robbie, that's what they do. That's what they've done. Using man coverage against Vandy's split zone option offense is not the greatest matchup. But again, we're talking Alabama versus Vanderbilt. Yes, Alabama should have been able to show up with those little multicolored beanies on their head with little propellers on the top and been able to handle that. And I think I hadn't thought about it in this context, but Travis was right. There were, and there will always be, if Vanderbilt's running the offense right, a lot of one-on-one opportunities in space. You've got to make that tackle against a 1.5-star Vanderbilt wide receiver. You 5-star Alabama linebacker and DB, you've got to make that tackle in the open field.
Tackling, I believe atrocious.
That you can.
It's terrible. I've seen better tackling at Norman Bridge drugs against Jim Massey cleaners behind Bear School. It's unbelievable. This team cannot tackle. Yeah, it's unreal. Hey, I want to give a shout out to my man. Wait a minute, that was the wrong one. I got to put my glasses on.
Sweeter says, is this the point where in the past Robbie hangs up the phone? Yeah, this was that time. Yeah,
pretty much. That's it. Hey, my man Mike, thank you, Mike. Mike's the one that gave me the Daniel Moore info or that little funsy. Thank you, Mike.
Man,
that's a good one. Appreciate that.
Somebody else for giving you stuff, man. It's all you.
Hey, Plainsman Preston, he wants to know if we're going to a third hour today. We're gonna have Rodney Orr on for the whole hour. How's that make you?
Plainsman Preston. If you're sitting there griping about, having to go to Kroger or whatever while we have Bryan Matthews on, you ought to check it out where,
I tell you what, Preston, we'll go 3 hours and have Rodney on for the last hour. How's that sound? Is that you good with that?
Hey, I can't do a third hour, so you could have Danny from Margaritaville on. That'd be fine with me. That sounds like his time. Third hour.
I want to go back to this Jaheim Otis thing. Clinton Dix was a former Alabama defensive back, played for Green Bay, had a good career in the NFL. He tweeted yesterday, players are opting out to redshirt a year because they didn't get playing time. What about creating good habits and working on your craft? Just quit? No more reps at practice, no more routines. Just go into the portal, Rusty. Got it. I think, Barry, we're going to get more of that. I think we're living in a day and age of instant gratification. I'm not playing. They told me I was going to play. Well, maybe you're not as good as you thought you were, or maybe you're not working as hard as you need to work. Maybe
more
you're not
likely that.
Effort. Yeah.
More likely they're thinking, man, this kid's only a 3-star. He's a redshirt freshman. I'm a junior, and he's starting over me. That used to crawl all over Saban. He said, well, is he playing better than you? Well, yeah, but I'm a junior, and he's only a sophomore. Well, work harder than him. Play better than him. Not only is that the way to get your starting job back, that's kind of the way America is supposed to work as a country.
Hello. Yes, exactly. Oh, don't get me started on that. Open borders and whatnot. Yeah. But anyway, you're going to see more of this. This is coming.
Question.
You're going to see it. I'm not playing enough. I'm too good to be sitting here, whatever, and I'm moving on. And the loyalty, the 3 or 4 or 5 years at one school, that's in the past. And it kind of goes back to this disciplinary measure on Malachi Moore. I'm an old school guy. I mean, I know what would have happened. I know what did happen 40 years ago when some things happened off the field that shouldn't have happened, and even on the field for that matter. And you were disciplined. Now it's like, well, he's a great guy. And, he's been such a big part of this team. I mean, I can't imagine Charles Lee going, that Longshore's kind of the glue to this team. When we get tense and everybody's a little worked up, Longshore's the icebreaker. He's kind of the guy that loosens everybody up for us. And he, without him, this team wouldn't be where it is today. And he's stuck around with us, hadn't gotten a lot of playing time, but, he's been here with us for 3 years. And, I've talked to him and he's apologized and he's good. That wouldn't have worked 40 years ago. But now that's kind of the way they do it. And you better get ready because the next time something like this happens, whether it's in Tuscaloosa or wherever else, that's the speech you're going to hear.
Well, the story that I always think about what you're talking about, the Bear Bryant story about Namath. Namath, a great guy, very popular with his team. Everybody loved him. He was always polite to people. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. All that kind of stuff. Well, he had an indiscretion and had a little extra zest for living one time. And Bryant said he suspended him for the bowl game, I think.
Yep.
Somebody can correct me.
It was the Orange Bowl, I believe.
Yeah. And he suspended him, and he had guys come up and say, Coach, man, he's a really good teammate. He's really sorry. He's a really good player, obviously. We sure could use him. And Bear called Joe into his office and said, look, I'm getting a lot of people who tell me that, that you're really sorry, and I believe you are, and all that kind of stuff. He said, but if I let you play, I'm going to have to resign because that stands against everything that I believe in. And Joe says, well, I understand, Coach. And it was a different day back then.
Sure.
But Namath ran stadium steps, and he had to check in every morning before he went to class, and he couldn't miss a class. Otherwise, he would have been kicked off the team and all that. And he did it. And you know what happened with Joe Namath. You hate to do it. I'm not saying, Kane can gleefully say, oh, boy, here's my chance to really show what I'm. No, you think of the kid first and last and always. And I honestly think that would probably be a pretty good lesson for Malachi Moore in the long run.
Barry, I think also a unique part of that story is all the assistant coaches wanted Namath to play except Gene Stallings.
Except for Beebs, yeah.
Yeah, and Stallings said, Coach, we got to sit him. And didn't something similar this is something I'm asking. Sure it did. With Snake Stabler, he drove to go see his girlfriend down in Foley, and Bryant found out about it, and he got suspended as well.
Yeah, I think that's the story, but I know there was a story there.
I mean, you can't blame Snake for driving down to see his girlfriend. I mean, undefeated and all. I mean, I get it.
Yeah, both Alabama and that undefeated. But, I just, in this day and age, for somebody like Jaheim Otis, who has said that the reason why he's entering the transfer portal and redshirting this year is because of playing time. He's not playing enough.
Yep.
He's not the kind of guy that sitting out for the rest of a football season is going to go well with. He may get back to 400 pounds or something. But again, it's just the option that they have now. And it's not just Jaheim Otis, and it's not just Alabama, and Jaheim Otis won't be the last one at Alabama to have this happen. It is a hyper-competitive situation, and if you cannot match that level of hyper-competitiveness, you're going to want to quit and go somewhere else.
Sure.
And
no doubt.
You have that avenue now that in the past, really, you didn't. You think, man, I don't want to have to sit out an entire year. I don't want my teammates who I've sweated and sacrificed and bled with and all of that to look at me like, man, what are you doing that for? Well, you're quitting on us. I'd never want to be known for that, but that's what you're doing, and that's what's being normalized, and that's what's happened with him, and that's what's going to happen to a lot of other people. Not saying he's a bad kid, but I'm saying he's got an opportunity to leave and go someplace else where, quite frankly, it looks like it might be a little bit easier for him.
Sure, and particularly, and you're going to see it at every position, but I think quarterback is probably the one you're going to see the most, because you don't see a lot of rotation on the field with quarterback. Usually it's one guy and he plays the whole game unless it's a blowout. I have been surprised, that Ty Simpson at Alabama stuck around. Dylan Lonergan has stuck around. It'll be interesting to see what happens when this season's over. I think at Auburn as well, with a couple of those guys. Will they be back? Will that quarterback room look the same in Auburn? Hugh Freeze is probably hoping it doesn't. But you're going to see it.
It won't,
particularly at quarterback. And then speaking of that, I hate to bounce all over the place, but with Peyton Thorne, where Auburn is right now, record-wise, Peyton Thorne's not going to be there next year.
Right.
Is it? Are they to the point where you just why not throw somebody else in there and see what he can do and get ready for next year? Or is it too early for that?
It's too early. I mean, I think if they continues on the same track, there will be that point. Maybe late October, if they lose to Missouri and they lose to Kentucky and they go to 0-4, 0-5 in the SEC and don't have a chance at bowl eligibility, then they do it. But right now, I hadn't thought about it before, but Bryan Matthews says they're at a point where the coaching staff, man, they got to win games. They got to win some games. They've got the wherewithal to do it. They've got good enough players. This is not a team that feels like an 0-8 SEC team like we saw in 2012 at Auburn. Mm-hmm. They have a chance to have some success. This is a team that that looks like they have the wherewithal to get to a bowl game. That's what they need to focus on. And as soon as that drops out, if that drops out, then you got to start planning for next year. But it also feels as though, to your point about, the Auburn quarterback room, it also feels as though the starting quarterback next year at Auburn isn't on campus right now.
I think you're right about that. I'm with you there. Barry, I'm told that it was the Sugar Bowl that Joe Namath didn't play in. And now that I see that on our chat board, I think I do recall seeing photos of Namath in the Orange Bowl. So I guess it was the Sugar Bowl. Okay. Now that I think about it,
but Sugar Bowl. The story is still applicable as well. Bear hated to do it, but he said, if I let this slide, I may as well just retire because I may as well just quit because I'm not standing for anything that I believe in makes good football teams and good people. So that's kind of the deal here. There's got to be that sense of, Malachi, you're a great guy, a great captain. This is not personal. I believe in you. But those actions were unacceptable. And, maybe it's stadium steps and we never know about it. That'd be fine. But there's got to be something.
Yeah.
Got to be something.
To me, Barry, suspending a guy, to me, hurts more, sends a message.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Stadium steps are great. Getting up before dawn and taking the trash out or whatever. But man, being suspended and kind of you sitting around thinking about it and the humiliation. I mean, there again, I've told this story 1,000 times. I got suspended for a game in high school because I did something at a dance during homecoming and had to go to Coach Lee's house the next day along with someone else who was a starter that I will not reveal his name. And we went over there with our hat in our hand, and he, told us right then and there. I can't tell you exactly what he told us.
No. So,
but we didn't play. We had an away game in Phoenix City that next week, and me and this other guy drove over there, and we walked into the stadium, and we sat in the stands with all the other people, and it was a humiliating learning experience. And here it is 40 years later, and I can remember it like it happened yesterday.
Hell, John has said before, it helped mold him into the man he is today.
Had something to do with it, I think.
Also, Bobby Knight, the late, great Bobby Knight, always said the greatest motivator he's got is the bench. And I'm sure, to your point, John, that game against Louisiana Tech, where Jeff Berger sat on the sidelines for that opening play with his helmet on his lap, just sitting there reflecting on the mistakes that he's made and how his life took a wrong turn. That 1st and 10 play at his own 20-yard line when Reggie Slack came in and took the snap and handed it away to Fullwood or somebody. And then even before the play was whistled dead, Slack was trotting back to the sidelines, and here comes
Was
Berger.
That a fullback dive they ran there? I mean,
simply right off tackle, right off guard, right up the middle. I remember that play because, for that one split second or for that 10 seconds, I'm sure Jeff Berger spent time reflecting.
Yeah, I bet
on
he did.
Just how he.
You know what Dye should have done? He should have let Reggie Slack fake that fullback dive and drop back and heave one.
Yeah,
I mean, why not?
Just simple, get the play over with so you can get Berger back on the field. Well,
we hadn't talked about that in a while. I'm glad you brought that up. That's another great Jeff Berger's story that we like to share from time to time, along with the Crystal story.
Well, also one question we may address here, John, at 8:47 this morning. John says, anyone check on? Well, he misspelled. There's a typo. Anyone check on? I'm sure he meant Bob from Pike Road after Vandy kicked Bama's derriere. Maybe he could be the new defensive coordinator for DeBoer. He spelled DeBoer wrong.
Yeah. Bob did send in something earlier today on our chat room. I did see that. I would like to get Bob's thoughts about Alabama's offensive and defensive line play, because it was definitely not good in the game up in Nashville.
Yeah, Bob was the one who pointed out that DeBoer must have been listening to John yesterday because he wore a nice golf shirt to the press conference yesterday morning. So
I will say, and I want to, how about Bob from Prattville? We heard from him either. I mean, man, Vandy beating you, that's got to be tough.
Can you translate the into a text? I'd like to see it. Let's take a time out here. It's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Fall into savings at Stivers Ford in Montgomery. At Stivers, they have the largest selection of Ford cars and trucks in Alabama, priced thousands less than other dealers. The F-150 has been America's best-selling truck for 47 years in a row, and they have hundreds to choose from. Save thousands on Ford Explorers, Expeditions, and Edge. Ford Broncos in every style and color, along with Mustangs, are available at incredible low interest rates. Stivers Ford in Montgomery, where Price sells cars and trucks.
Dixie Electric Plumbing and Air has teamed up for the 4th year with the Food Bank of East Alabama and Montgomery Area Food Bank in an effort to reduce the high percentage of food insecurity within the Montgomery and Auburn communities. For every new Dixie Cares Plan membership that is purchased, Dixie will be donating 7 meals to partnered food banks. Last year alone, Dixie donated 13,356 meals. Our goal for 2024 is 15,000. Thank you for choosing Dixie and for helping us make a difference within our community.
Here we are back at it, though. Got about 10 minutes or so until the top of the hour here today. Don't forget, our program is streamed all day long, so whenever it's most convenient for you, you can check it out at any time. Of course, we're live from 7 until 9 each and every weekday morning. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We really appreciate it. Helps out the algorithm, I'm told. I'm not sure what an algorithm is, but sounds like a pretty interesting word, so we'll use it as well. But tell your friends and family, business associates, all about what we're doing here. As Barry mentioned earlier, we had one of our former listeners back from our radio day say, hey, where are you guys? Here we are. So let everybody know. You can check us out. And then, of course, we're on Spotify, Apple Tunes, all that kind of good stuff as well. Listen through your Bluetooth, your smart speaker, your iPhone. So many ways to check us out, to listen, and to watch Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
You know, Hurricane Milton is bearing down. I was going to ask Travis about that. Travis is in Jacksonville, which is going to be on the backside of the peninsula when Milton comes through, and it's some scary stuff. According to the National Weather Service, it's the strongest hurricane in the Gulf since Hurricane Rita in 2005. It's going to hit around Tampa. The Buccaneers have already left early. The Bucs will play New Orleans in New Orleans, and the Buccaneers are already headed there today. Florida and Tennessee play in Knoxville. Florida State has a bye. Miami has a bye. I think Memphis plays South Florida on Friday. I have a hard time believing that game is going to happen. Cincinnati at UCF, North Texas at FAU. That one should be fine because that's further south. So, hey, prayers to all those people. I was going to ask Travis about that. My older sister lives in Jacksonville, and I know there's going to be a ton of rain at the very least. My younger sister, Jenny, who is one of the sweetest people on the face of the earth, she's the one that didn't go to Florida. She got her undergraduate degree and her master's degree from the University of Alabama's Tuscaloosa campus.
Wow.
Huge Crimson Tide fan. My sister, Jenny, she is a professor at Indiana University, where they are 5-0 for the first time in forever. Well, today's her birthday. Happy birthday to my sister, Jenny. I say that, not that she's listening. She's teaching a class right now, but I know my mom's watching, and she probably said, you better say happy birthday to your sister, Jenny. So
now, where does she fall in the rotation of McKnight children?
I have an older sister, and then me, and then Jenny is 6 years younger than I am, and then my brother Mike out in Los Angeles, you know, the former Sports Illustrated writer who now works in professional soccer. He is 9 years younger than I am. Mike has been a guest on this program before. Bob from Pike Road checks in, John.
I see that.
Again. Yeah, love Bob from Pike Road. He says, John and Barry, you think there's a common sense comparison to the famous beep through the tin horn game from 2015? Was that 2015? Seems like longer ago. He says every Bama starter on defense was drafted, and many of those in the first 2 rounds. Georgia Southern had 302 yards rushing, but Bama won. That was the one. Saban tells the story afterwards where he says what Bob had said, that we had all these guys drafted on defense, 11 in the first 2 rounds, and here comes Georgia Southern running the option offense. It's a good bit different than Vanderbilt's option offense, but it is an option offense, and we could not stop them. They ran through our tube through a tin horn. And I'm thinking, does through a tin horn go through a tin horn faster?
Yeah.
Than otherwise? What's the physics of through a tin horn? Does it speed up?
I don't know.
A tin horn?
I don't get that.
What is a tin horn? Does anybody have a tin horn? Is that a thing? Anyway, Bob goes on to say at 8:54, he says, I will predict that Bama finishes this season 11-1 and plays in the SEC championship game and the college football playoff. Tennessee game will be the toughest, but Bama should win that game close. Bob, I don't, if that happens, that would not be a surprise. It is Bama after all. But it's not just the loss to Vanderbilt. I mean, which is shocking just to even form that sentence. John, it's the manner in which that
not only, you're right, Barry. I mean, Vanderbilt puts 40 points up on this Alabama team. Think about that. 40 points.
They punted.
Are you kidding me?
2 times in that game.
They put up, 3 points in the last 3 games that they played?
I think they put up 18 against Georgia State in their loss to the Panthers.
Yeah, I'm talking about the last 3 times they played Alabama. I think they only scored
it was like 143-3 or something like that.
So they score 40 points on this Alabama team, and you mentioned Georgia State or Southern?
Georgia State.
State, who beat Vanderbilt. So when you start looking at the end of the year, comparing wins and losses, you lose to Vanderbilt, they score 40 points on you, and it's the same Vanderbilt team that got beat by Georgia State. Is Georgia State going to win the Sun Belt? I don't think they are.
I think they're 2-3 right now, actually.
So that's going to hurt you.
Well, and again, it's the manner. You better, John, there are issues.
No doubt. Yeah.
It's not just Vanderbilt kicked a late 54-yard field goal to get their first lead of the game with 3 seconds to go. Vanderbilt led from the start. And at the very end, DeBoer kicks off after Alabama scored the touchdown on the reverse to Ryan Williams. They had 2 minutes and 44 seconds, plenty of time, 3 timeouts, and they could not stop.
So how does a guy
Vanderbilt with the game on the line
was the Heisman front runner after the Georgia game basically get shut down? Not only has the defense played bad the last 6 quarters, Jalen Milroe hadn't played real well either in the last 6 quarters, if you come to think about it. And where's that running game? Where's that offensive line opening up these big holes against that Vanderbilt defense? I mean, I think Alabama's running game is subpar compared to other years and other running backs that they've had. I know Jam Miller had 1 long run, but they got to have more of that.
Yeah.
And I just don't think the running game is complementing this offense enough.
Well, I do. I wondered about this on the strip sack of Milroe. And again, Vanderbilt took that ball and just marched right down the field, scored the touchdown. I wonder about Milroe's pocket vision. How did he not see that? He didn't come from the blind side. He came right at him, and I don't know if there's a shiftier quarterback in college football that's not playing in Coral Gables. How did he not see him and get out of that? Because he was the only guy crumpling the pocket. He was right in front of him, and Milroe not only stood there, but he didn't secure the football. And I'm thinking, and that's happened before with him.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how does he not see that guy? How did that guy sneak up to him like that? So, yeah, there are issues. It's not just the loss to Alabama. It's the manner in which they lost the game to Alabama that bears some addressing for sure.
It certainly is the manner. That's a good way to put it. The manner. They've got to clean that up big time before. Well, should we look past South Carolina? Obviously not. I mean, I know they laid an egg against Ole Miss last week, but certainly they played LSU well earlier in the season. So can't look past the Gamecocks. But certainly games like Tennessee, at LSU, at Oklahoma, Alabama can't afford to lose anymore. And unless they play better, they're going to.
Dee and I are visiting the grandkids this weekend. So for my Auburn friends, know if they lose to South Carolina, I'm out of pocket on Sunday. We cannot have a command performance show on Sunday. I can't do it. So don't even think about
it. I can't either. I can't either. I can't make that on Sunday, but I will be back tomorrow morning, God willing, and we'll talk to one of our good friends from Phoenix Physical Therapy. Our medical rehab segment will be tomorrow around the 7:30 point. You never know who else might join us tomorrow as well, but we always want you to be a part of what we do here.
It's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.